Hello, everyone. This is Lenard Guzman here with Emily Robinson on the Modern Divorce podcast. And if you could see here, this is kind of I'm caught in two places, but I think we're okay. I got a camera here, and I got a laptop here, and we're good to go. We got internet. So how you doing, Emily? Everything okay with? Um, I think today. So today's May 20th, 2022. What's going on with the divorce season and court? You see any trends lately?
It's been busy, but nothing really that new. People, are antsy to get things going again, and they get frustrated that their paperwork comes back so slow with the COVID delays. But um, pretty much the same. Still a little delayed, but it's getting a lot better.
All right, let's get into the show part of the show where we go over the news, the trends in Google. We see a lot of celebrity stuff. People post stuff like today looks like uh, military topic. So I'm sure this will help people who are in the military. Yeah, my dad's a um, why am I blanking? He's a veteran. He's a Vietnam veteran, and so
Oh,
this stuff it comes up. It's come up, with his friends and family, and so let's get to the first one. This one is from the Washington Post. So the topic is my daughter's husband suddenly said he wants a divorce. So here's a little background. So my daughter has been married almost a year. Her husband is in the military, and they had to get hitched so she could live with him during the COVID-19 lockdowns. They live in an isolated military base. She takes care of the house, started a business, volunteers for the Red Cross, and has a dog that keeps her busy. She graduated from college, but there's no work on the base for her. So she came home from work last night and told her. So he came back from work and told her he was unhappy for a while and that he wanted a divorce. He said that counseling wouldn't help. His mind is made up. So if you kind of go through it a little bit, so she goes. So they're going through the divorce. She's devastated, doesn't even know what she had done wrong. Last month they were talking about starting a family. How are they on the divorce doorstep? He's been drinking a lot. With the military thing, he's away a lot and he has to kind of pack and leave. Um, what should her first steps be? She lives several states away, so going to give her a hug. So I assume this is the mother. So she's devastated. So she encouraged him because she's away from home to see the pastor on base, but she's hesitant. Any advice?
wow. Well, there are actually attorneys that specialize in military divorce, and I highly recommend that because there are some special rules with military pensions, and sometimes even special rules in the military that can be really important. So I think the first step is find an attorney that knows about military divorce and maybe even specializes in it. Um, but second of all, it's really hard to go through. It's a tough thing. I always recommend, talk to a lawyer, especially a military specialist, and maybe even a coach or a therapist to get just a bearing on where to go next.
All right, so I think it's past tax season. So this next article, how's tax season for you? Did you pay your taxes, Emily?
I did. I'm done with tax season. Yay.
All right, well, we got a divorce topic here. It says from Forbes.com, critical tax facts in divorce. So a couple of things that come up. So, are taxes owed on a divorce settlement? I guess people have these common questions. So, transferring assets between spouses because of a divorce does not generally result in tax consequences. Should I file jointly or separately? And I guess that is based on your December 31st marital status, couples sometimes will wait until January. So couples sometimes wait until January to finalize a divorce or reduce taxes owed for the preceding year. And this works whether you're filing jointly or married filing separately for that year. There's other statuses like head of household. Couple things where there's differences to consider when dividing your retirement, like the 401k or IRA. Let's see. So it's critical to understand that. So dividends, if you're like stock dividends or interest earned in investment accounts. So do these topics come up a lot? Like I'm sure because in taxes, like there's a taxable event, and I think right in divorce when you're like, oh, we're gonna sell certain assets, these come up, right? And so
Yeah.
that becomes a pain, I assume.
Yeah, I mean, these are things you really always want to check with an accountant or CPA because there are tax consequences and issues that could happen from a divorce. And certain things in divorce, like transfers of assets, can be exempt from taxes if you do them incident to the divorce. So you definitely want to get advice on that because sometimes you're comparing apples and oranges if you have an asset that's taxable versus an asset that's not. So you want to make sure that you're dividing things that are like assets or accounting for those differences in the assets if they're not like assets.
Okay, next article. Divorce is not a dirty word, and this is from essence.com. Yeah, divorce could have like a positive, I guess, connotation to it, but whenever I hear divorce, it's like, oh, that's a bloody mess, right?
Yeah.
So, okay,
Yeah.
so let's see. So after building a platform around a marriage, she walked away from dating guru and author Lilian Prince has moved past shame she felt about her decision. So if we're going through this a little bit, so let me tell you up front, this is not a piece about celebrity breakups, no matter how trendy an article like that would be right now. I won't attempt to analyze Kim and Kanye's train wreck of a public divorce, and I won't make this about other celebrities. So I guess here it says, in the story of my early dating life, I reveled in being transparent, open with my family, friends, and social media about the highs and lows of relationships. Skip down to the end. In retrospect, I knew very early that my marriage would not endure till death do us part. But completely being honest, I knew it on the Monday after the wedding, literally one business day into the marriage, while half of our 225 wedding guests still haven't made it back from home from the celebration. By the time I filed for divorce 2 years later, the obligatory couples counseling and therapist, and after we journaled and talked about bargaining and with one another, it was a hard decision. To skip down here, could it have been because everyone's natural response is to say, I'm so sorry when you tell them? Would it have been anything to do with the flood of social media memes that imply any woman who walks away from a relationship simply can't keep a man? Maybe society's tendency to value the length of marriages without real consideration for the work, the turmoil, any sacrifice that come with relationships. And I think she feels a bit of shame because her parents were happily married for 33 years, and I guess that's tough. Like coming from parents who have been married so long.
Wow. That's tough. Yeah. I mean, I was actually just talking to someone about this last night. Like, divorce isn't always a ugly and a dirty word. I mean, sometimes it's just not working out, or you realize this isn't the right person for you. And It doesn't always have to be a giant, production with fighting and litigation. Sometimes it just can end, peacefully. It's always stressful and it's always emotional, but sometimes it can just end peacefully. And most divorces do, honestly. The really ugly, bad ones you hear about, those aren't the most common.
Looking for my cursor here. Okay. So this next one's interesting. Talking about memes. So I guess someone on social media put so they put pregnant women uh, divorce law in Missouri and Arkansas, and they said, can a pregnant woman finalize a divorce? Probably because of the Roe v. Wade topic it's come up. So a social media post is going around, and it says, fact, pregnant women in Missouri can't get a divorce. So they're fact finders. So this is from ky3.com. Okay, so I guess this is some in Arkansas and Missouri. This is a thing. So the quote from an attorney, Shannon Grisham. And so, with the presumption as part of the divorce, the court would be required to address child support and custody, so the child has to be born before a divorce can be finalized. Um, so there's a ruling here. The ACLU noted the states. So this is in Washington State. I know I'm jumping around because I'm just a little confused. They're jumping from state to state. The ACLU noted that the state's Equal Rights Amendment absolutely prohibits discrimination on the basis of sex. Kathleen Taylor, executive director of ACLU of Washington, added, at the time, the court's ruling reaffirms a woman's right to make her own decision about when to seek divorce, regardless of her childbearing status. So the meme is partly correct for Missouri and Arkansas. A married pregnant woman can file for divorce. However, on the specific question, a pregnant woman finalize a divorce in Missouri, Arkansas, the answer is no. She can't finalize the divorce until the child is born. What do you think about that?
Wow, that's interesting. Um, yeah, I mean, that's certainly not the law here in California. That seems very like old school that you can't finalize a divorce if the child's not born. We have a lot of rules about, the presumption of whether someone's the father of the child, because the people were married when the child was conceived or something like that. But yeah, I mean, I think that's crazy. I don't know why. I don't know why you wouldn't be able to finalize a divorce if a child isn't born. I'm guessing that's a very old rule that would get changed soon. But interesting that that still exists.
All right. Yeah, I think because the Roe v. Wade thing's coming up, and so everyone's kind of going crazy
Obsessed
either
with that.
way.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think either way. But we're not talking politics. This isn't a politics podcast. All right. This is an interesting one. So there's a settlement here. So Art auction fetches 922 million for high profile divorce settlement. This is from CNN. So okay, so in 2018, during the divorce proceedings, a New York State Supreme Court judge ordered. So these are the Maclows. To sell 65 artworks from their collection and split the profits after the couple's hired experts provided vastly different appraisals of what some of the artworks were worth. Valuations for Alberto Giacometti's essential sculpture Lenard, for instance, varied by $30 million. The court decision set off a battle between auction houses, Sotheby's. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
Oh, Sotheby's.
Yeah,
Yes,
it's
Sotheby's.
very bougie. Is it? I've seen this before because I watched that Leonardo da Vinci documentary where one of his paintings. They probably have a Leonardo da Vinci painting. So this one, continuing Christie's and Phillips to bring the collection to market. The appointed art dealer Michael Findlay delayed the decision due to the 2020 pandemic. Um, yeah, so my gosh, so they were forced to sell this art. Um, is this I I I guess it's a record, but as far as I guess selling art and assets, so the court forced them to because I assume we're assuming that there was no agreement on either end because that's a lot of money.
Yeah. So, I mean, when you have something um, like a really valuable piece of art or an antique or something, and you can't agree on who's going to get it, or one person can't buy the other out, or there's no other asset of equal value, then the only choice is to sell, just like with anything else, a house or so. Most people don't have items that are that priceless that you can't say, okay, you keep that piece and I'll keep this piece. But sometimes there are. I mean, if it's really a piece of art worth a lot of money, then yeah.
Okay, let's gosh, rich people problems. I wish I had that problem.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's get into the part of the podcast where we go over things that people ask. We call it Ask Emily Anything, where people post things online, whether they're starting the divorce journey or kind of are in the process and they have frustrations. A lot of things like mental health and child custody and financial issues come up. So let's get to the first one here. So this one's a life after divorce. So they're 2 years in, and it gets better. So I wanted to share a bit of my journey post-divorce to give a perspective to my fellow divorcees and a bit of hope. So my separation from my spouse happened 2 years ago. It was the hardest experience of my life. I had severe depression, anxiety, suicidal thoughts. My heart was torn to shreds. So since then, I went through therapy for the first time in my life. I discovered my self-worth and unpacked childhood trauma. I healed, therapy saved my life and made me a better person. So last year I went after a promotion that I could have been too chicken to apply for before my divorce. I got the job, and though it's hard work, I feel like I have the strength to carry it. My relationship with my coworkers improved. I made several good friends at work whom I love dearly. Um, So yeah, so divorce. She concludes like divorce is incredibly tough and can feel like death, but this pain can be a springboard for a ton of growth and healing. Because my divorce, I learned what resilience and courage are. So will you. So this is a good thing. Like it's rare that I hear
Yeah.
these stories that we hear them.
No, that's positive. I like positive messages. Yeah, I mean, um, that's, true. And I hope that more people can see that and can listen to positive messages like that and see that there's hope and there's, you know, life at the end of the tunnel, and you'll move on from this and find something else great in life. And just like any trauma and any difficult thing that we have to deal with as humans, you'll get through it.
This next one, are you familiar with Bumble, the dating app?
Yes.
I'm familiar with it because I my single friends are on it, and I guess it's like kind of it empowers women here. So we have a post here, so I don't really know what we're getting into, but we'll see. So I met a woman on Bumble, and she made me realize how terrible my ex-wife was. So I've been divorced for a year, and some change now, and I just recently started seriously talking with this amazing woman. She's so thoughtful, considerate, and loving. She actually verbally compliments me, supports my ideas and things I do, and just as a loving human being, she always checks to see how I'm doing. She's very open. We vibe together. I was married for 7 years, never once that my ex-wife ever taken the time to make me feel wanted. In the past, I used to tell people my ex told me it was just unnatural for me to want to touch you. Um, So he goes, I honestly cannot believe I wasted 7 years to make it work and stay together for the kids. And he concludes that divorce is the best thing that ever happened to me. And yeah, pick yourself up and take care of yourself. We have some positive stories today. But so this is for Bumble, the
Yeah.
success of dating apps.
Well, that is true that sometimes, you find the right person after having found the wrong person, and it just confirms for you that you made the right choices and you needed to move on. And I think that's a positive story. It shows you that you can still go out and find the right person even if, your first marriage wasn't right.
All right, so that's all the time we have for on this mobile modern divorce podcast. It's very uncomfortable now. Like my arm and my hands are getting sore. It's like a burning
Oh,
sensation. So I got to work out here. So thanks so much, everyone, for joining
don't
us.
hurt yourself.
We will see you next week. Thank you so much, Emily, for putting up with the podcast, and we will see everyone next week.